Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube storytelling channel. A lot of you have messaged me and asked me to talk a little bit more about my shaman journey and some of the experiences that I have had. And so this is going to be one of those videos where I will share with you an experience that I had, and this was a few years ago in the very early beginning years of my journey, and it's one that I still think about every now and then. Loneliness creates an attachment, and we all know too well what kind of attachment it may create among human beings. Sometimes we are afraid of them, but what we must know is that they are more afraid of us. If they scare us, a shaman healer can actually bring our soul home. If we scare them, they'll need to find a shaman who can help them bring them home. And there's only a handful of shamans who are actually willing to do that for the spirit side. A handful, and that includes me. But that is saved for another time. What I'm going to share with you today is about loneliness in life and carrying that with you to the other side and learning that that loneliness actually follows you. Now, this incident caused me to really think about how when someone is going through a mental breakdown and no one is able to reach them, and how they can carry that pain with them into death. And it's a feeling that I never want anyone to go through. But sadly, there's more people we know, they actually bear it. More of them actually go through it than we want them to. This happened at a very happy event. It was a birthday party for a friend of mine's. Her son had turned a year older, and we were there to celebrate. I attended with my family. And this was my first time going to her house. I've never been to her house before. We usually just had dinners outside of each other's homes, and we met, at different places, but we never really went to each other's house. And so I had never gone to see her house before. The moment that I went into her home, it was feeling cold for me. And I try not to communicate too much if I'm visiting in people's homes. I usually do tell my guys to just close off and try to be quiet so that I don't bring anybody to discomfort or anything, because I understand that not everybody wants to hear or know about those things. And so I did just that until I had to go down to the basement. Now, there was something about the last 3 steps that had me reaching the lower level, and I had to pause in my steps. I just stood there and I felt the temperature of the house begin to drop. And I could feel the air become very thick and become very heavy. And there was just this breathing that I felt that was not my own. It just started to surround me. My throat started to close up and I began to gag. And then this huge lump started growing in the base of my throat. And that was when I started to feel my body begin to shake. And then whatever it was that was around me, I told it to move away. There was not the time or the place to be doing this to me. And there was this little kid that ran down the stairs. And when he ran down the stairs, he accidentally bumped into me. And that was when the connection broke and I was able to feel breath coming into my body. I could feel air filling my lungs. And I just, let go, let this breath that was cut off from my throat. And I walked back upstairs. And I tried to shake the feeling off as much as possible. And I forced the entity out of my body and out of my mind. And I avoided going downstairs for the remainder of the party. Now, when I returned home, I took my shoes off. I was feeling kind of achy and exhausted, and my children, they were running one by one to the living room, each one grabbing their own little thing to do. And I decided I was going to take a shower. Now, as I began walking up the stairs, I felt my legs become super heavy, one step at a time. And my husband, he happened to walk into the bathroom to wash his hands. And at this point, I had made it up the stairs, and then I just came in and I sat down on the edge of the bed. And my legs went numb, and I felt something come right up to my neck, where it started squeezing my neck and it was constricting me a breath. And my vocal cords were shut off and my vision began to blur, and I could see it. There was this dark shadow that was standing right before me. It was a black outline of a body, and it was hissing breath into my face. And that was when my husband turned the water off and he walked out to find me. And he looked at me for a few minutes and then he called out my name. And I didn't answer. And then he watched me and he noticed that I wasn't moving. I was just sitting there in this like freaky mode, whatever. And I wasn't doing anything. And that was when he got scared. That was when he got really, really scared. And I knew right away what it wanted me to do and wanted to talk to me. So I was able to turn my head a little bit and I told my husband, you need to go set up my altar. Set up my altar. And so out of the corner of my eyes, I see my husband. He's pacing back and forth. He doesn't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? And so I told him again, set up my altar. And this time I'm yelling at him because he wasn't listening at the first time. And so when he finally hears me yelling at him at that time, I feel my body begin to loosen up. I can feel that there's, whatever it was that has a hold of me is getting to let go of me because I'm listening. I'm trying to get my husband to do what it needs me to do. So he runs down the stairs and he begins to set up the altar. And I could hear him lighting the candles one by one by one. And this was when my voice loosens up and I say out loud, if you want me to help you, this is the wrong way to ask. If you don't release me, I'm going to send you somewhere that you can't return. So if you want to talk to me and want me to help you, you need to release me now. And so it was then that I began to feel my body begin to relax again. And I felt as if energy was coming back to me and my feet and my hands were beginning to, come back to life. I could feel that my body was mine again. And so I got up and I start to change into my shaman outfit. And the whole time that I'm changing, I am pissed off. I'm pretty pissed off actually. And I'm yelling at it and I'm saying, how dare you break into my home and you try to take over me without my permission. And you just broke one of the rules. And now I'm going to have to show you what I do to people who break rules. And so as I'm doing all of this, I come downstairs, I cleanse myself, and I put the veil on. As soon as I sit down and I grab the bells and put it on my fingers, I already hear this like awful cry. It's like almost like a animalistic cry that's beside me, and the voice is really low and it's broken, like a scratched record that misses a beat when it's played. And I go under trance, like immediately I go under trance, and I see him sitting in this dark earth as I enter this room, and his head is down, and he looks up at me, and his eyes are this like really dark, cloudy haze, and he's got a lot of light that's hidden back, and his figure is really thin, and he's young, and I can feel his pain. And he begins to say these words that I don't understand because he's talking so softly, but I can see that he's crying, and he's crying so much that I can't even understand his words. And so finally, I slap my hands together, and the echo of my sound slapping my hands together wakes him up. And he jerks his head up, and it's twisted to one side, and his mouth is hanging open with uncertainty. And so this is where I begin to interact with him, and I tell him, you're lonely, I get it, but what gives you the right to do what you did? You have rules you must abide by, and you broke those rules. There's a fine to pay if you do that. Don't you understand? And this was when he begins to cry, and his hair, I see that is beginning to fall out minute by minute. And he tells me, Mother doesn't send me any money. I'm so lonely. I have nothing to eat. I can't get past the hour. And who do I seek help but you? You happen to come there. And I said, I came there, but not for you. You chose to take over my body and you caused me harm. Big mistake. And you're lucky that I'm nice and I didn't burn you right away. You just tell me what you need and I'll get your message to your mother. And this is when he begins to cry. And it's just a young son looking for love from a mother on earth who was deaf and blind in life and is now deaf and blind in death. And pain is real, even in the afterlife when you are stuck in between worlds. There's nothing worse than living in a realm where your language isn't understood and you're invisible to both the living and the dead. You become a faded memory and soon another dot in the galaxy that even a burning asteroid avoids. And these cries are loud and they're painful. And beside me, my husband is watching me, making sure that nothing strange is going on. And he hears the bells ringing on my fingers and the candle flames are swaying and my feet is stomping the ground. And he listens to my message of trying to forgive and to not take his pain out on other healers who happen to walk past his sight. And I promised him that I would get his message across, and I promised him that I would send the message to his mother, but he needs to stop hurting people who can't see him, and he needs to stop moving things around the house to where people are getting afraid, people are being scared. And he tells me that, he is somebody that is related to my friend who has lived in that house. And because he is a relative that lives inside that house for quite a while, that is why he was unable to move on because of whatever was going on. Nobody was sending him any money. Even when he was alive, everybody ignored him. And even in death, people still ignored him. So I was telling him that he can't scare others to get his message across. And if he do as I ask, then I would do as he asks. But we must meet in the middle because I'm doing a duty and he needs to meet the requirement in the fine print. And he told me while he's crying, he was like, I will let go. I would not use my hate on others. I would do as you ask. My veil is just soaking wet, and it's from the tears that he's crying because I'm crying through relaying messages from him, and I can feel the tears just dripping on my cheeks. But yet my emotions that belong to me are closed off. And this is how I'm able to maintain control of me. And so what I did was, I asked him to let go and that I would send the message to his mother. But what he needed to do was that he needed to also forgive. And as I told him that I would burn him some money, I whispered to him, sao mà ông kinh rồi chẳng tất cả, sao lưu trong đó mà, có mù đó có mù hú nè, có mù đó có mù hú, có chả lưu có tài hại đó cú ya cho cầm sao có lần nè luôn chạy luôn mua nè mà. Giả tư con chơi, giả tư có sát nó tao hậu là cũng mà hai đứa cái lần nè mà đi sát nó nó có hậu. Thì chỉ chữ có chỉ sáu là ok chính kiến trai, có mắc kiến kiến đồ lối lần người tự ý trong gì nữa. And I feel him letting go of my hands, and I'm beginning to slow my trance, and as I carry my duty through. And after I got done with my trance, I called my friend and I told her what happened, and she told the mother of the son, and they were able to connect all the dots and send him the money that he needed. And that night, as I was getting ready for bed, my bedroom window, which was on the second story floor, I went to close the curtains and there was this white butterfly that was just standing on the ledge of my window. And as I whispered to it, Muda Muhu, it flew up and it flapped its wings twice and then it disappeared late into the night.